He thought they were his real parents. He thought he was safe, but one blood test revealed the truth, and now someone's trying to erase him. What would you do if your entire life was a setup? The wind howled outside like it had secrets to tell. Jace Carter sat cross-legged on the living room rug, flipping through a comic book, when the doorbell rang. It was strange. No one ever came this late, and certainly not during a storm. He glanced at the clock. 9:17 p.m. His parents were upstairs watching a documentary about mountain goats, or something equally boring. He crept to the front door and peeked through the peephole. No one was there. But when he cracked open the door, the porch was empty, except for a single envelope resting on the welcome mat. There was no name on it, no address, just thick, aged paper folded perfectly in half. He looked over his shoulder, then snatched it and closed the door quietly behind him. Jace tiptoed to his room, shut the door and locked it. His heart thudded with curiosity as he unfolded the paper. The message was short, only one sentence written in a sharp, slanted hand. Your family has lied to you. Come alone to the old windmill before the truth disappears forever. He stared at it, his fingers suddenly clammy. Lied to him? What did that even mean? His parents weren't perfect. They made him do chores, grounded him for stupid stuff, but they weren't liars, right? The old windmill was 3 miles outside town, past the woods, abandoned for years. His dad always said it was dangerous, unstable. No one went there. Jace's mind raced. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it wasn't. But whoever wrote this knew something. And deep down, Jace felt it. The letter wasn't wrong. His parents had been acting weird lately, whispering when they thought he wasn't listening, giving each other worried glances whenever he asked about where he was born. He folded the letter and slid it into the back of his comic book. He didn't know who sent it. He didn't know what he'd find at the windmill. But he knew one thing for sure. He was going. Jace waited until the house was quiet. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards settling. His parents had gone to bed an hour ago. He could still hear the muffled sound of his mom's white noise machine and his dad's gentle snores through the wall. He slipped on his sneakers and grabbed his flashlight, tucking it into his hoodie pocket along with the letter. The old windmill was nearly an hour away on foot, but the curiosity gnawed at him like a living thing. He had to know. By the time he reached the woods, fog curled between the trees like ghostly fingers. His flashlight flickered and buzzed, cheap batteries, but he pressed on. Branches scraped his arms and cracked under his feet. A few times he thought he heard footsteps behind him, but when he spun around, nothing was there, just shadows. Finally, the windmill rose ahead, tall and crooked like a giant skeleton against the moonlit sky. The once white paint peeled like old skin, and one blade hung broken at an angle. Every kid in town had heard stories, ghosts, disappearances, weird lights at night. No one dared come close. But Jace wasn't just any kid tonight. He climbed the fence slowly, catching his hoodie on the barbed wire. As he dropped to the other side, he heard a low creak. Someone, or something, was inside. "Hello?" he called, voice trembling more than he wanted it to. No answer. He pushed open the heavy wooden door. It moaned like it hadn't been moved in years. Inside, the smell of dust, old oil, and damp wood hit him. The flashlight flickered again, then died completely. Then from the darkness, a voice. Low. Raspy. "You came," it said. Jace froze. "Who's there?" A figure stepped forward from the shadows, an old man with a long gray beard, eyes sharp as glass. He wore a weathered coat, and one of his hands trembled as he pointed at Jace's pocket. "You brought it. Good, because you're running out of time." Jace's heart nearly stopped. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer. He just whispered, "The truth has been hidden too long, boy, and the people you call family aren't who they say they are." The next morning, Jace moved through the house like a ghost. His mind replayed Elias's warning over and over. The people you call family aren't who they say they are. His mom smiled at him over breakfast, sliding a plate of pancakes in front of him, like nothing had changed. His dad chuckled at the newspaper, completely unaware of the storm swirling behind Jace's eyes. How could they pretend like everything was normal? Jace didn't eat much. He mumbled something about being tired and slipped away to his room. But he didn't rest. He waited. At exactly 10:42 p.m., the house went quiet. His parents had said goodnight. Lights were off. But Jace stayed awake, sitting cross-legged on the carpet, just listening. Then, it came. Low voices. Barely a whisper, just past his bedroom wall. His parents' room was on the other side. The walls in this old house weren't thick. He pressed his ear against the cool plaster and held his breath. "We can't keep hiding this from him," his mom whispered, voice tight with emotion. "We have to," his dad replied, calmer. "He's not ready. What if it changes how he sees us?" Jace's heart thudded in his chest. They were hiding something. Elias was right. "What if someone else tells him?" his mom said. "What if he finds out some other way? He's not a little kid anymore." There was a pause, then his father spoke, barely above a breath. "If he finds out the truth, we could lose him." Jace pulled back slowly, barely able to breathe. Lose him? Truth about what? His whole body buzzed with questions, but there were no answers, just fear. He climbed into bed, pretending to sleep when he heard footsteps approaching. The door creaked open. His mother peeked in, just like she always did. But her smile tonight was different. Too tight, too careful. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure if the woman at the door was really his mother or just someone pretending to be. Jace couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. After hearing his parents argue in hushed voices, after Elias's strange warning, and after that eerie whisper in the wall, he couldn't just sit back and pretend everything was fine. He had to find answers. The next morning, while his parents were out, Jace decided to search the attic. He had always been curious about the boxes of old clothes and forgotten knickknacks that piled up in the corners, collecting dust. But today, it wasn't just curiosity. It was desperation. He needed to find something, anything that could explain the strange feeling growing inside him. The feeling that his life, as he knew it, wasn't real. The attic was hot, stuffy, and smelled like old wood. Cobwebs hung from the rafters like forgotten memories. Jace opened the creaky door and stepped inside, his flashlight sweeping across boxes stacked high. His fingers brushed the edge of an old trunk, worn and faded. It looked untouched, almost important. He hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, he lifted the heavy lid. Inside, there were old family albums, newspapers from years ago, and yellowed letters tied with twine. He sifted through them, one by one, feeling like a detective on the hunt. Then at the very bottom, he found it. A photo frame, cracked along the edges, but still intact. The picture inside was black and white, faded with time. Jace's heart skipped a beat as he studied the photo. It was a picture of his mom, a young woman smiling brightly, holding a baby wrapped in a blue blanket. He stared at the baby for a long time. It looked just like him. Same dark eyes, same small nose, same messy hair. But there was something wrong about the photo. The man standing next to his mom wasn't his dad. It was Elias, the man he'd met at the windmill. Elias stood tall, his face serious, but his eyes were filled with something Jace couldn't quite place. Hope? Sadness? Both? Jace's hands trembled as he turned the photo over. There, written in faded ink, were the words, "Elias, 2012. First and last photo with our son." His throat tightened. His mind spun. What was going on? Who was he? And why was Elias in this picture? Jace shoved the photo back into the frame, almost dropping it. He stood there, frozen, heart racing, as the air in the attic seemed to grow heavier, colder. This wasn't just about his parents anymore. It was about something bigger, something hidden. Jace couldn't sit still. The photo, the strange message from Elias, and the cryptic words from his parents were all buzzing in his head like a swarm of bees. He needed answers, and the only place he might get them was the windmill. Elias had said the truth was running out of time. It was a Sunday afternoon, and his parents were out. His mom at the grocery store, his dad taking a nap. This was his chance. He didn't care how dangerous the windmill was. He had to go back. He had to see Elias again. The old man was the key to all of this. Jace grabbed his jacket, stuffed the letter into his pocket, and slipped out the back door. His feet hit the cold grass, and his heart raced faster with every step he took toward the woods. The windmill was 3 miles away, but the thought of what he might find there pushed him forward, faster than ever. The woods loomed ahead, darker than usual, with the trees bending slightly as though whispering secrets to each other. Jace hurried, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he neared the windmill, the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. He was almost there. He could see the crumbling structure through the trees, its broken blades creaking in the wind like an old man's groan. But as he drew closer, Jace froze. There was someone standing in the shadow of the windmill, a tall figure, hooded with a slight limp. They didn't move, but Jace could see them watching him. His breath caught in his throat. Who was that? Was it Elias or someone else? Suddenly, the figure turned and dashed toward the broken gate of the windmill, moving faster than Jace thought possible. Panic gripped him as he ran after the shadow, his footsteps muffled by the thick layer of fallen leaves. He had to catch up. He had to see their face. The figure glanced over their shoulder. Jace's blood ran cold. It wasn't Elias. It wasn't even a man. It was a girl. A girl with dark hair that swung behind her like a veil. "Mira!" Jace shouted, finally recognizing her. Mira, his best friend, the one who had always been by his side, was running from him. "Wait! Mira, what are you doing here?" Jace called, but she didn't stop. She just kept running, her feet pounding against the earth. She reached the windmill and disappeared inside before Jace could catch up. His heart hammered as he skidded to a stop at the entrance. He was gasping for breath, his legs aching from the sprint. "Why are you running, Mira?" he whispered to himself, his voice trembling with fear and confusion. But no answer came. The windmill stood silent, its dark interior like a mouth waiting to swallow him whole. He stepped forward cautiously. This was no longer just about his family's secrets. There was something bigger here, something that involved both him and Mira, and he had no idea what it was. Jace couldn't shake the feeling that everything he thought he knew about himself was a lie. Mira had disappeared into the windmill with a secret of her own. The way she ran from him, there was something about her that made him uneasy, but he couldn't confront her yet. He needed proof. He needed to know why she was involved. After his encounter at the windmill, Jace didn't go home. He couldn't. His mind was spinning, filled with questions. So he did what he could think of. He went to the local clinic. He couldn't afford to wait. He needed answers, and this time the truth would be written in black and white. The nurse at the clinic, Mrs. Lawson, was an old friend of his mom's. She raised an eyebrow when Jace asked for a blood test, but after a few moments, she nodded. "Your mom said you'd be in soon. You're here for school, right? Something about allergies?" Jace faked a casual smile. "Yeah, something like that." She led him into a small exam room, the bright fluorescent lights humming above him. As she drew his blood, Jace's mind raced. He'd seen his parents' reactions, heard the strange conversations. They're hiding something from me. But what if they weren't just hiding secrets about him? What if he wasn't even their child? Mrs. Lawson finished with the blood test and handed him a small vial, a cold weight in his palm. "You'll get the results in a few days, Jace," she said kindly, but he could see the confusion in her eyes. She probably didn't expect someone so young to be so serious. The next 2 days felt like they dragged on forever. Every time Jace saw his parents, his stomach twisted. He couldn't look at them the same way anymore. They had lied to him about something. But what? He was about to find out. Then finally the letter came. His blood test results were ready. Jace opened the envelope with trembling hands. As he read through the words on the paper, his stomach churned. "Your DNA test results indicate that you are not genetically related to your current parents. Your biological family remains unknown at this time. Further tests required for identity verification." His breath caught in his throat. He wasn't related to his parents. The blood test confirmed it. He wasn't their son. Jace collapsed back into the chair, the weight of the revelation settling in. All his life, he had believed they were his family. But now, nothing made sense anymore. The results of the blood test shook Jace to his core, but he couldn't just sit around and let the truth unravel him. He had to know more. His parents, whoever they were, had lied to him his entire life. Everything he had known, everything he had trusted, was built on a foundation of lies. Jace paced around his room, his mind spiraling in every direction. If he wasn't their son, then who was he? Where did he really come from? And why did his parents keep so many secrets? The more he thought, the more the fear of the unknown gnawed at him. He couldn't sit idly by anymore. He had to confront his parents, but he had to be smart about it. He couldn't let them know he had discovered the truth, not yet. They were hiding something, and he needed to find out what. Jace remembered the locked drawer in his mother's study. It had always been off limits, but his curiosity had gotten the better of him over the years. He'd caught glimpses of strange documents tucked behind piles of books, papers with codes, names, and dates he didn't understand. It had always seemed like she was hiding something, but now it seemed more like a warning. That afternoon, when his parents were out running errands, Jace decided to take the risk. He slipped into his mother's study, heart pounding in his chest. His breath caught as he stood in front of the drawer, the one place that had always felt like a forbidden zone. His hands were trembling as he unlocked it. Inside, there was a stack of documents, much like the ones he had seen before. But this time, they were different. They were papers related to his adoption, or more accurately, his kidnapping. The papers confirmed what he had feared. It wasn't an adoption at all. His parents weren't just keeping him from his biological family, they had taken him when he was just a baby. The documents were full of names, locations, and dates. It was a trail of secrets he wasn't sure he was ready to follow. But the most chilling part? The name of the organization that had been behind his abduction? The Midnight Collective. Jace froze. He had heard the name before in hushed conversations at school. Whispers about shadowy figures involved in something sinister. But he never imagined it was connected to him. His entire life had been a lie. Suddenly, the front door creaked open. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Jace stuffed the papers back into the drawer, slamming it shut just as his parents walked in. His mother looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Everything okay, Jace?" He nodded slowly, his throat dry. "Yeah, just thinking." But inside, his world was collapsing. The truth was out there, and it was far more dangerous than he ever could have imagined. The results of the blood test shook Jace to his core, but he couldn't just sit around and let the truth unravel him. He had to know more. His parents, whoever they were, had lied to him his entire life. Everything he had known, everything he had trusted, was built on a foundation of lies. Jace paced around his room, his mind spiraling in every direction. If he wasn't their son, then who was he? Where did he really come from? And why did his parents keep so many secrets? The more he thought, the more the fear of the unknown gnawed at him. He couldn't sit idly by anymore. He had to confront his parents, but he had to be smart about it. He couldn't let them know he had discovered the truth, not yet. They were hiding something, and he needed to find out what. Jace remembered the locked drawer in his mother's study. It had always been off limits, but his curiosity had gotten the better of him over the years. He'd caught glimpses of strange documents tucked behind piles of books, papers with codes, names, and dates he didn't understand. It had always seemed like she was hiding something, but now it seemed more like a warning. That afternoon, when his parents were out running errands, Jace decided to take the risk. He slipped into his mother's study, heart pounding in his chest. His breath caught as he stood in front of the drawer, the one place that had always felt like a forbidden zone. His hands were trembling as he unlocked it. Inside, there was a stack of documents, much like the ones he had seen before. But this time, they were different. They were papers related to his adoption, or more accurately, his kidnapping. The papers confirmed what he had feared. It wasn't an adoption at all. His parents weren't just keeping him from his biological family, they had taken him when he was just a baby. The documents were full of names, locations, and dates. It was a trail of secrets he wasn't sure he was ready to follow. But the most chilling part? The name of the organization that had been behind his abduction? The Midnight Collective. Jace froze. He had heard the name before in hushed conversations at school. Whispers about shadowy figures involved in something sinister. But he never imagined it was connected to him. His entire life had been a lie. Suddenly, the front door creaked open. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Jace stuffed the papers back into the drawer, slamming it shut just as his parents walked in. His mother looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Everything okay, Jace?" He nodded slowly, his throat dry. "Yeah, just thinking." But inside, his world was collapsing. The truth was out there, and it was far more dangerous than he ever could have imagined. Jace's breath came in ragged gasps as he ran alongside Mira, their feet pounding against the pavement. The sounds of the engine behind them grew louder, echoing in the cold night air like a warning. Mira's hand was tight around his wrist, pulling him faster. She was faster than he was, more practiced, but Jace had a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. He couldn't afford to fall behind now, not when everything was falling apart so quickly. Mira yanked him down an alley, and they ducked behind a stack of wooden crates. The car's headlights sliced through the night, moving in their direction. Jace's heart was hammering in his chest, his thoughts racing. How had things gone from bad to worse in the blink of an eye? "They're coming for us," Mira whispered urgently, "and they won't stop until they find us." I don't know what to do, Jace. They won't stop at anything." Jace's mind spun as he processed her words. The Midnight Collective. They were real. The car, the chase. It wasn't just some random event. It was them. They knew he had discovered the truth, and now they wanted him, both of them. "We need a plan," Jace said, his voice shaking but firm. "We can't just run forever. We need to figure out how to escape them." Mira nodded, her eyes wide with fear, but there was something else in them now. A fire, a determination. She wasn't the scared girl she had been moments ago. "I've been working on something," she said, pulling something from her jacket pocket. It was a small device, almost like a tracker, but with strange markings on it that Jace didn't recognize. "This is our key to getting away. If I can access their communications network, I can scramble their tracking signals. It'll buy us time." "Time for what?" Jace asked, still trying to make sense of the situation. They were running from a powerful group that had been hiding the truth about his life from him. What could they do to stop them? "To find out everything," Mira said, her voice low. "Everything about why you were taken, why they wanted you, and how to finally stop them." Jace's stomach clenched at the thought. He was in deeper than he had ever imagined. The Midnight Collective had been watching him his entire life, controlling his every move through the people he trusted most. His parents, Elias, Mira, even her sudden appearance in his life was part of something bigger. But now, as Mira fiddled with the small device, Jace understood one thing for certain. If he wanted to survive, he had to trust her. They couldn't run forever. "Mira, how long will it take?" Jace asked, desperate. He could hear the car getting closer, its engine growling like a predator closing in on its prey. She didn't answer immediately, her hands working quickly. "Just a few more seconds." "Got it." She hit a button on the device, and suddenly the light from the car's headlights flickered. The sound of the engine sputtered, and the car came to a screeching halt a few yards away. "They've lost us," Mira said, her voice trembling with relief. But Jace knew the worst wasn't over. They had just bought themselves a few precious minutes, and that was only the beginning. The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating. Mira had managed to scramble their pursuers' signals, but Jace knew they couldn't stay hidden for long. They needed answers, real answers, and the only way to get them was to confront the truth head-on, no matter how terrifying it might be. Mira led Jace through winding streets, keeping to the shadows. Her device, which she had used to jam the car's tracking system, was now securely tucked in her pocket. They had a brief window of time, and Jace could feel the weight of every second that passed. The Midnight Collective wouldn't give up this easily. "This way," Mira said, her voice steady despite the fear that Jace could see in her eyes. "I have a place where we can talk, where they won't be able to find us. But we have to be quick." Jace nodded, his mind still reeling from everything he had learned. His parents had lied to him. His whole life had been a lie. And now Mira was telling him that the Midnight Collective had been watching him, had planned his abduction from the moment he was born. But why? Why him? What was his connection to them? "Why did they take me, Mira?" Jace asked, his voice thick with emotion. "What do they want with me?" Mira didn't answer immediately, her gaze distant as if she was carefully weighing her next words. When she spoke, it was in a low, hesitant whisper. I wasn't supposed to tell you this, but you have to know. You were part of an experiment, a plan to create the perfect human, someone with abilities beyond what any of us thought possible. Jace felt his chest tighten. An experiment? Abilities? Mira nodded, her expression pained. Your parents, well, the people who raised you, they weren't supposed to be your parents. You were meant to be raised by scientists, by people who would monitor you, test you, see what you could do. But something went wrong. They lost you, and they couldn't find you until years later. Jace's world spun. His thoughts tangled together, none of it making sense. He wasn't just a regular kid. He wasn't just someone's son. He was a product of something dark, something sinister, and his parents had hidden it from him his entire life. So they knew all along? Jace whispered, feeling the weight of betrayal crash down on him. They raised me like I was just some project? Mira's eyes filled with sorrow. Yes, but they didn't want you to know. They thought they were protecting you. They thought if they kept you hidden, you'd be safe. But they were wrong. The collective's agents are already looking for you. They won't stop until they have you back. Jace clenched his fists, fighting back the anger that threatened to consume him. What do I do now? Where do I go? Mira hesitated, then gave him a look that said everything. We fight together. Jace felt a surge of determination flood through him. He had no idea how, but he wasn't going to let them win. He wasn't going to let the Midnight Collective control his fate anymore. All right, he said, his voice hardening. We fight. Mira smiled, though there was still fear in her eyes. I'll help you every step of the way, Jace. We'll find a way to stop them. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of everything hanging between them. But Jace could feel something shifting inside him. The truth had torn his world apart, but it also gave him a purpose, a reason to keep moving forward, no matter how dark it got.